All right, finally to the time that I've finally been waiting for. I do now officially have a TIG welder. I've done a lot of MIG welding, or some. It's all been self-taught, but it was finally time to upgrade to a TIG welder. This is a Prime Weld 225 TIG welder that I picked up about a month ago. Been pretty busy with the C10 and haven't got to play with it too much. Everything I've done self-taught, so I'm still learning. But long story short, today I'm gonna be doing the exhaust on the big truck, my supercharged F150. So this is all stainless steel, 3-inch exhaust. And so I went ahead and bought a TIG welder and cart and gas and everything else. So gonna be kind of practicing and learning on the way. So this is definitely not a how-to. This is just what I'm doing. I've watched many hours of YouTube videos from Pacific Arc welding and different welding channels, weld.com, stuff like that, to try to really, learn as much as I can about settings and, why things happen the way they do. But like I said, this is going to be kind of a trial by fire. Like I said, I've done some practicing over here. I've welded some odd end scraps and stuff together, but like I said, so I think I've got enough under my belt. I think I can glue this exhaust together and it shouldn't leak and should look actually pretty, look good. So I guess I'm gonna get down and get started. First piece I'm gonna start with is just a simple welding this flange on to the inside of this. Like I said, this is all 3-inch exhaust, so I'm gonna weld the flange to this that bolts up to the headers, and kind of go from there. And probably this I know is the right length, so I don't have to worry about it, but I'll go ahead and weld that all the way up, and then everything else I'll start tacking together. And I'll kind of break down what I've got, what I'm using welder wise and what I'm using exhaust wise. It's basically the same setup as what I built for the Lightning, because it's identical, it's just longer. And this one's going to be a little bit harder because I got to go underneath the transfer case on the truck, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. So I'm hoping to be able to knock this out in a timely manner as I'm learning what I'm doing. All right, got a couple practice passes in. I'm gonna do one more, but I was just gonna kind of go over what I've got. This is a CK Worldwide torch that comes with the welder. I'm using 3/32 gray tungsten, and I'm just grinding it on a flat disc with a drill. I'm using a number 12 FUPA cup with a gas lens. So I did upgrade this. These don't, let me shut this one off. All right, so the regular cups that come with the Prime Weld are good, but for stainless, especially being new, I've read that these kind of help you out a little bit, and they are recommended for stainless for your gas coverage, because stainless is very particular on gas coverage. Like I said, definitely watch Pacific Arc Welding. He's got a lot of good videos, and I'll leave a couple links and a couple, of people to recommend to watch. But anyway, so I'm using 3/32 tungsten. I'm using 1/16 stainless filler rod. It's a 308L stainless filler rod. I think you might be able to see, yeah, maybe. I don't know if you can see that or not. But anyway, it's 308L filler rod. And like I said, so I've got a couple little practice passes in to kind of get just right there to get everything else. But like I said, I've been practicing a lot, and a lot of it's just with no wire. I mean, or a lot with no filler rod. So I mean, I've tried a lot and practiced, and tried to figure out my heat and speeds and feeds and a lot of that. And basically, kind of what I found on exhaust pipe, at least for me, because I'm not very proficient at it yet. So I kind of just, the way I set it is I'm using a foot pedal, but I'll kind of tap the exhaust or tap the material and come up just a little bit. That way I know where I'm starting. And then after I start, I kind of make about 10 dabs. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I just kind of count it out in my head. And it keeps me a good rhythm and a good pace to keep everything consistent. Is the best way I found for me. Everybody's a little different. Some guys can, basically wrap, halfway around the pipe and keep going. And like I said, I'm not that proficient. So, I mean, probably 8 to 14 is where I'm at. I'll probably try to keep 10 on a lot of this pipe just to keep it. It's a lot of start and stops, I understand, but I feel like it's a better way of doing it. For me, like I said, everybody's a little different, but I just kind of wanted to give you, and I'm running about 25 CFH on my gasket through the torch. I will back purge this pipe, and I'm just using clear plastic hose from Lowe's and a prime weld regulator for the other side. I'll probably run like 5 on the back purge for a lot of this. I mean, it's not super critical, but I'm trying to attempt to do my best, and we'll just kind of go from there. But like I said, I just kind of want to give a rundown on anybody new. Like I said, not professional at all. Take what I say with a grain of salt, but this is what I've read, this is what I've kind of practiced with, and seems to be what's doing the best. Like I said, you can see where I've not done so well on some of this stuff, but like I said, these two here was what I just practiced with, so we'll see if I can keep it up. I'm well aware that I will make mistakes. I'll dip it. I've got about 3 or 4 pieces of tungsten already ground, because I know I'm gonna dip it. That's the nature of it. So I'm gonna get to welding on this other piece, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got the end tacked up. I did go put it together, make sure that it was going to be the right length and all that good stuff, but it looks like it'll work. I got probably 5 or 6 tacks around the edges. I was kind of learning as I was going. You can kind of see I kind of blew the end out there. I got to get more comfortable. It's a good setup. I'm very grateful for this this sawhorse and piece of plywood, but I like being here and being up front. I kept wandering too far forward and blowing out the end of it. So I gotta get a little bit more readjusted. I know it's gonna be a hassle once I get the whole exhaust on here and try to weld it up. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, I may have to, I don't know. Well, I gotta have the foot pedal. I don't know. That's future me's problem. I'm not gonna worry about that now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish welding this together and see how it goes. I'm like I said, I'm getting better as I go. And I tried to see if I could just kind of fusion weld it a little bit without filler rod, and I couldn't do it. I did wipe all this down with acetone before I started, so to try to keep everything clean. Like I said, I'm just trying to do good practice. I'm not saying that you have to do this. I mean, you can honestly, I probably could have been done with this a long time ago if I just would have MIG welded the whole thing, but it's just, this is one of those other tools in the arsenal that is going to be really handy to have one day. So like I said, we'll just keep trying and we'll keep going after it, and hopefully I get good. So I've got the passenger side welded up, got the flange welded on. Same thing, I had to grind the top of the weld off, but not a huge deal, but it's all pulled up snug. It's not overly tight right now, but I've got my next piece. You can kind of see, it's a little funky on camera, but the way the truck's laid out, let's see if I can do it. Okay, so this is parallel with the truck. Well, you can see that the exhaust goes out. Well, it's hard to see. Anyway, so the exhaust kicks out toward the outside of the frame, and it's very pronounced. So what I did is, so I made a short extension here, then I cut it, and then I took it on the belt sander and just sanded me an A angle. I don't know what angle that is, but it was enough to square it up, and I got really good fitment on it. And so I just put some little tacks. I think I got 4 little tacks around the outside edge, and then now I can square it up to be able to put the 90 that's got to come straight down into here, because if I don't, it's going to hit my torsion bar to the left. So I got to wrap over the cross member around this, which is for the transfer case, and then come down under the cross member and then across through here. So what I've been doing, which you can kind of see there, is to make sure all my stuff lines up, is I'm going to go through and I'm going to mark this 90 with a Sharpie, and that way when I take it out of the truck, I can be able to tack it up, because there's no way, even if I had my welder in the garage, there's no way I could get up in there and tack that up. So I'm just gonna have to keep taking it out and putting it in, but I'll go ahead and tack this up next, and probably gonna go ahead and cut that flared end off again, just to make it a little easier on me. That way my gaps aren't real big to fill in, because I'm very intermediate at filling gaps. So I'm trying to keep my gaps as small as possible, because I can tell if they're too big. But that's kind of where we're at. Everything's looking pretty good. My tacks are getting better. I'm starting to kind of get my footing a little bit more, but this is quite a project to just be starting with. So if I had the chance to practice more, I probably would, but I think I'll just learn by doing. So I've got basically the driver's side all tacked up all the way up to where the V-band's going to go. And it's gone pretty smooth. It's gone very slow, but it's gone pretty smooth, because I'm working in my other garage, or my attached garage, and I'm having to bring everything out to the shop because that's where the welder's at. TIG welding is very slow and tedious, which I knew that going into it, but it's very time consuming. The other thing is kind of having, easy or proper equipment, would help, being able to clamp it a little bit better. Maybe if I had some kind of different style clamps to help clamp the exhaust. But all in all, it's actually turned out pretty good. The belt sander is a lifesaver, getting everything flat and square. Should have been doing that a long time ago, even with MIG welding, but like I said, everything's going pretty good. It's got some funky angles in it. You can kind of see because the headers kind of flow out, and so I've got to go out, back in, down, around, up around the transfer case, and then to the muffler. So I'm gonna get this all put in there, make sure it all looks good, and get the rest of my pieces. Well, yeah, I guess I need to do that. And then I'll show you the V-bands. They're Mishimoto V-bands, stainless steel V-bands. They're pretty nice, so hopefully they'll do me good. I'm hoping I've just got to put it on one side, and then the other side can all stay together just to have less moving parts. It makes it harder to get in and out, but I think it'll save me a little headache on getting stuff square and lined up back right again, because this is quite a hassle. And I've been using all kinds of shims. I've used tape and like rocker panel plugs and vices and clamps, and Dad's held stuff, and it's been a lot. But it's, like I said, TIG. It's the TIG welding part that's very tedious, but I like it. I'm kind of rambling. It's been kind of a long day, but it's going good. Alright, so I got all this fit up, made sure it all still worked, and here is the V-band. This is a Mishimoto brand 3-inch stainless steel exhaust V-band. It's actually really nice, and that's kind of why I bought it. I didn't buy the cheap Amazon one because I was originally going to, but if this truck ever has to be serviced, I don't want to have to fight with replacing one of these cheap ones from Amazon. Pretty simple. It's got, if you can see, there's a little lip on the inside that lips onto here, sets over it. That way you can weld all the way around it. And these have little retainer rings that you can kind of see that keep them locked together. There's a little, there's a little room for air to fit up, but they do lock up real good. And then these are, they've just got a groove cut in them, or bend in them, that everything goes together. So shouldn't be too big of a deal. Like I said, I've made sure all my fitment's pretty good in there. This here goes right before it gets to the muffler. The muffler will have one more tube that comes out here, and then this will go into here, so it'll slip in between my my transmission cross member I'm fighting. Yeah, my transmission cross member. So I'll, because it goes up and around, and then this will still snake up into there without any issues. So anyway, just kind of wanted to give you a sweet little rundown on that. It's really nice quality. I mean, it all looks like it was machined well. There are no sharp edges or burrs and all that. Be curious on how well this stainless lasts. Not that it rusts, and that was kind of a weird way of putting it, but in machining, a lot of the time, some of the time, certain stainless nuts and bolts, if you use a stainless nut and a stainless bolt, they can actually gald together. They get kind of, if there's any trash or anything that builds up in them, they can actually get hung up together. I'm not saying that these will, but time will tell. It looks good. They're not super sharp, so maybe they will clear. But anyway, I'm gonna quit rambling and try to weld these things on. And I may go ahead and I should be able to go ahead and finish weld all this pipe here, because it's kind of set in stone. There's no changing it now. So I may go ahead, weld the flange on, plug this up, back purge it, and get everything welded up, and this side will almost be done. So I'm hoping today, at least I can have this side done, and then I'll have everything to the muffler finished. And then after the muffler, we'll kind of snake it out the side. I may do that. I'll get that done tomorrow, but today, if I can get this done, will be awesome. right, so I got the V-band welded up, and it turned out okay. I had a little trouble on the inside here. You can see I kind of globbed it a little bit. It was hard because I ended up finding out that if I laid it down, it was a lot easier. So I had to kind of wrap my hand and torch inside here and get it to weld. I didn't film any of that because I was getting frustrated because I kept dipping my tungsten in it, couldn't figure out how to weld it because I was trying to weld it, you know, on its side. You'll see that in the beginning, and then I realized I could lay it straight down, and that was 12 times easier. So, but anyway, I don't think that's too bad. I got a spot to fill in there, but all in all, that's not awful. It's got some work to do, but it's not terrible. So I think, like I said, I think I'm gonna do an aluminum foil trick and jam the ends with aluminum foil, and then run my tube to it, and then back purge it, and get started on welding the rest of this stuff. So hopefully I don't have too much of an issue, because I'm going to try to not be in a hurry, but I'm also trying not to waste gas because it is kind of expensive. So we'll see how that goes. That's the only thing about that sucks, is none of TIG welding is fairly inexpensive to learn, because you're using filler rod and you're using gas and and especially on stainless, it's quite more expensive because you got to use more gas to weld stainless. But all in all, I think it looks pretty. Fill focus, yeah. I mean, it looks pretty other than that one spot. Don't forget that. But the rest of it looks pretty. So that was the main thing, making pretty welds. And they'll hold, so I'm not worried about them falling off. So, but anyway, I'll quit rambling, and pretty excited with how it's turned out so far. Let's see if I can keep it up. So next morning, got exhaust pipe put in, and looks pretty good. All in all, I'm pretty pleased with it. You know, the morning after kind of sheds a light on stuff, but all in all, it's not too bad. I mean, I definitely need some more practice and need some more work, but I'd say all in all, it looks pretty good. The main thing I noticed last night was I definitely need more practice on filling gaps and holes. Because I had a horrible time because of the way you can kind of see, maybe hard to see, these are a lot more gray because I kept having to fight and play with them. Because once you cut some of this pipe, like this is a U that I've cut and twisted. Once you start to cut a lot more of that U down, it tends to get ovaled instead of round, and so you end up with a gap. You know, this side, it wants to come way out here, so you end up with a gap here, and then this pipe does the opposite, so you end up with a gap here. So I tried to squish it down, but like I said, I had a lot of trouble. Most of my trouble was in this joint here that just didn't have a great fitment. So I definitely need some practice on filling gaps and holes, especially in thin stuff. And thicker stuff, you can kind of cheat a little bit and keep a lot of your heat in the thicker material. But with this thin stainless or thin steel or thin material, it's real hard, because as soon as you stop and slow down, all that heat just burns right through it. So there's nowhere to dissipate it, and the only way you can cool it down is putting more material in it. So then you're fighting, and yeah. So like I said, just some more practice, but all in all, I'd say it's not too bad. So anyway, I've got last piece on the driver's side is the connection between the muffler and the V-band. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and weld the V-band onto another piece of pipe section. The issue I have with the mufflers and things is same reason. You can see I used the expanded part of the flared end of the pipe on this one because it's the same diameter as what this is. Same thing with this. This is a flared end. Unfortunately, I don't have another flared end. that I'm not using. So what my thinking is I've got a couple different options. I can either waste a section of a 4-foot piece and use that expanded in like I did on this side, or I can possibly weld a bead around the diameter of the pipe that I'm going to use and use that as my filler, so I can set it in there and then I can just re-weld around that and put it back together, if that makes sense. Basically, I'm putting a rib around it to fill that gap, then I set it in there. That's as long as I can weld it in a, not get off and have a weird angle on it. So I may just cut my 4-foot pipe down and use that flared end. But anyway, I was just going to kind of show the V-bands welded up real nice and pretty. Those did really good because, like I said, wasn't too big of a deal to get those welded up. So that's all I've got here. It's pretty easy to get in and out because, like I said, you can see that's my torsion bar cross member, my transmission cross member that had to go up and around. I've got about a ½ inch of clearance between the transfer case. I don't know if you can see it, yeah. So I do have a little bit of clearance between the transfer case and the pipe. But all in all, it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it. So not too much longer. I did go ahead and mark for my wideband and oxygen sensor. Both of those go on this side. And I just mark a line on basically where, if you're looking at a clock this way, basically where like 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock would be, because I need to stay above that. That way any moisture or anything doesn't build up on the ends, and it'll stay off and not ruin your oxygen sensors. So basically I'll just mark like here and there and just kind of keep them a little bit away from each other. I think the rule of thumb is like 6 inches from the collector over. So I'll try to keep it somewhere in there. So like I said, I may put one here and the other one here and get those done. I've got some bungs to weld in there. I just bought them off of Amazon. They're just some weld-in bungs. The oxygen sensors, or the wideband from Pro Sport, comes with a weld-in one. And then, like I said, I bought these for the oxygen sensors. These are actually for a 2.5-inch pipe, so I do have to grind that radius out a little bit. But all in all, shouldn't be too big of a deal to get the rest of this finished up. And maybe tomorrow I can fire it up. I'm waiting on a startup tune, so maybe I can get it all done. So that's why I'm trying to hurry up and get it done this weekend and be able to fire this thing up. This is what I've been shooting for the entire time. That is wild. This was worth all the struggle, strife, just the pain. That is insane. I'm such a little kid. That is wild. I mean, that is okay. And there was enough here that I didn't actually have to use filler rods, so I was able to kind of be a little more calm without having, using that other hand. But wow, look at that. Look at that. I hope this isn't the only one I do on the truck, but that is as perfect as I'm gonna get in my eyes, at least for now. Oh man. Look at that. Now I'm sure there's there's people in there that can, I know there's people that can do better, but man, that's pretty. So I got this other side welded on. Didn't turn out too bad. Kind of figured some stuff out, but I did want to I know it's going to sound obvious, but so this is my helmet. This is the one I've been using forever. Bunch of MIG welding, bunch of stuff welding underneath the car. And I've always had an issue when I've been TIG welding. It's hard to see. And you can see, let's see. All right, so like you can't even see the back of my car through this lens. And so that's what I've been using. And that's trying to clean it the best I can. And so this is Dad's helmet. Now if the camera would focus, I mean, it's not even like there's anything there. So yeah, I mean, that's needless to say, get a good helmet and a good clean lens, especially, you know, when you're trying to, you know, do very tedious jobs, makes a big difference. So yeah, pretty obvious, but that is going to help me, you know, 10 times, you know, more, just being able to see what I'm doing. It's wild. As soon as I slid it on, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to do anything. Yeah, see, I mean, you can legitimately just see anything you want. And then you put my helmet up there, and that's about all you can see. So anyway, I guess the list of things to get is a new helmet. So, you know, you live and you learn. I wish I would have realized that about, you know, 3 days ago when I started this, but it is what it is. So like I said, I got it all welded up. Welding in between this gap was really hard, but oh well, you know, it's all a learning curve, so I'll figure it out. All right, we're getting the tune put on it. I know this is a little kind of jumping in there, but I kind of got ahead of myself. So I've basically got all the way up to the muffler done. I've got the hanger on, and we're going to give it a first start. Everything's a mess. I've got the wideband and all that crap still laying down there on the floor, but I figured I'd give it a shot and see what I can get done. So kind of trying to get a tune on it. This is all tuning from JJ at Woodbine Motorsports. So he's helping me get all this tune set up and done. So like I said, I've got a battery booster on it up there. So anyway, here shortly we'll give it a first start. All right, this truck probably hadn't been run in about a year. It's probably been a year since this thing started. So if it doesn't start or if it leaks something, I won't be surprised. Oh, this thing's sweet. Oh, it's so loud. Oh, this thing's so loud. Band's working. It's kind of very lean. Maybe it'll settle down. All right, here we go. All right, we are completely lean. We're out of gas. Trying to get some temperature in it, but it may just be what it is. Boy, it sounds cool though. It's not as choppy as the Lightning, but man, this exhaust is wicked. about to smoke me out though. And I can't open the door with the hood open, so let me shut the booster off, undo these. Oh, this thing is awesome. Let me get this door open before I die. Oh, this thing is wild. All right, let me get everything set up and I'll quit playing. I'm on the home stretch. I've got one of the basically tip pipes on there, the finished piece after the muffler. Now it's just set up there with jack stands. It's not tacked on. All the rest of the pieces are tacked on, and then I'll finish weld it, and then I'll tack it onto the muffler, and then I'll weld it onto the muffler. That way I don't have this big monstrosity I'm having to try to weld up. But all this tacked up pretty good. I just tacked it up over here in the floor. It was kind of a not ideal, but it worked. Fits up pretty good. Ignore my frame. I'll be painting and pressure washing it and painting as soon as I get this truck out of here. But it hasn't been able to run in like a year and a half, so it's kind of been neglected. But anyway, that's beside the point. But everything seems to be fitting pretty good. I've just got it set up there on the jack stands, and that's kind of how it looks sticking out the side. And then this other one will come up roughly in here, roughly in there, and stick out the front. That's about as good as I can get right now. I can't do much more about it, but it'll be like the Lightning, so I'll kind of figure out where the placement is, you know, forward, back, but they're both going to be roughly like this. Like I said, that one up here, it's a little higher. It'll actually kind of set down a little farther because I got this little lip here on the cab, and I would go back farther, but my leaf spring mounts in the way. Because ideally, you know, I'd like to have, I would have liked to have had both of them here, but being that this leaf spring mounts in the way, it would push the exhaust down so far that I didn't like it. So for right now, this is how it's going to sit. But once those leaf springs are gone, I may just go, and I should just be able to section that pipe there on both of them, you know, move it out a couple inches and re-weld it back on, so it shouldn't be that big a deal in the future. And crap, I may go through and change a lot of this stuff up, but all in all, it seems to be doing pretty good. I've got one mount in it right now, just to kind of hold everything there in place. I'll go ahead and add some more mounts back here, and possibly one up there on the cross section as it comes across underneath the transfer case. The other thing is, it's been a day or two since I filmed the last piece of whatever I was doing, but I jerked all the insulation out, pulled all the heat shields out, so now I can get to all my oxygen sensors and wideband and all that good stuff, which I don't think you can see right now. Not very well, no. But anyway, I was having issues getting my wideband and oxygen sensors, you know, if I need to replace them or anything, like from on a trip or something. I'm always going to keep an extra oxygen sensor. I always keep an extra wideband in the truck, because you'd be surprised how often even a good Bosch sensor goes bad. I've already replaced one in the Lightning, and it's only got 2,500 miles on it since we've put it together, and I've already replaced an oxygen or a wideband. So it happens. So I'm just going to stay prepared. But I want to be able to replace it, you know, anywhere I was at. But anyway, I'm gonna quit rambling, and I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the other assembly built, and then I'll get them both welded in, and then that'll be it. It'll be hung. I'm pretty excited with it. I'm super pleased with this prime welder. It's a much better welder than I am right now. still got a lot of practice, and you know, just time. It just takes time. I'm learning as I go, and that's kind of why I'm documenting it, because I just want to see, you know, how it goes. But that prime welder is fantastic. Any errors I've had has been a user error, just either forgetting to put the ground clamp on, forgetting to turn the gas on, just piddly stuff like that. But it welds fantastic, and I'm still using the pedal because I'm very comfortable with the pedal and I haven't set up the switch yet. But once I get some more time and get some more practice, I'd like to set up the switch. That way I can just slide up underneath something, tack it up, come out, or weld it up, you know, whatever, but be able to use that switch. But that foot pedal does great. But anyway, like I said, kind of quit rambling and try to get this thing finished up today. All right, well, I have lied. I did not like the way it looked, so I cut 4 inches out of that filler piece there, and because it was going to have to be down so far anyway to clear the bottom of this rocker panel, that the amount I have to come down on this leaf spring is roughly the same. So I like it coming out of the bedside better. Now, don't get me wrong, that's, like I said, that one's touching, so it's all got to get moved and adjusted, but I like it coming out of the bedside better. So anyway, I got to, after I made the clip, I'm like, I'm not really sure if I like that. So I went ahead, and my tacks are really good because I ended up having to cut them off. It's only got 3 or 4 tacks. It only had 4 tacks on it, and I couldn't break it without tearing something up. So I ended up just cutting it off. And so that makes me feel good about the welding. Means it's decent. But anyway, so I'm going to make my other piece now that goes on the outside. And we'll be on the road to recovery. But that's just the way it goes. Alright, I'm on my last little bit. This took me a lot longer than I thought. This exhaust placement's a little particular, but I finally got it. I ended up cutting it shorter and all that good stuff. I kind of showed that. So I'm going to get this outside tacked up, and I should be able to get the inside tacked up, and I can burn it in and be done. Let's see what I got. About 6 tacks on the bottom. Seems fairly sturdy. I may put a couple more on it, but I think that'll work. Alright, that shouldn't go anywhere. Alright, last piece to the puzzle and then I'm done. Well, I think that'll hold it. Put a couple more tacks on it and pull it down and weld it, but I won't do it till tomorrow. All right, I got it up on the sawhorses and ended up cutting this side off because it was touching over here. So I ended up cutting about 5/8 of an inch off the end of this, which sets it back because the farther out you are, the closer I was. So I cut about 5/8 off and brought it back farther. So kind of hold it. But anyway, so I'm gonna get that tack back on and should just be able to finish welding this thing up. I got a little gap here that I'll have to fill, and then just the way that how flared this is compared to that, but shouldn't be too big of a deal. I'm probably gonna have a little trouble getting the weld into here just because of practice, but I have plenty of it to do, so I'm gonna break the welder out, and I got everything moved back in the garage, and should get this thing finished out and bolted back on today. So I will have to put another hanger somewhere in here, and I'll try to get another one over there, but I'll at least get it hung today. It may hang. I may add another hanger down here on this side, and I'll probably attach some kind of little strap to hold both of these together. That way I'll see how floppy they are, but if they look like they're going to bounce around too much, I'll add a strap somewhere in here, that way they don't rattle. But all in all, that's it. So hopefully I can get this thing done today and get it bolted back on. I think that's it. I think we're done. That wasn't too bad. I still, I got better at getting the insides here. I kind of learned the amount of stick out I need and my gas flow and all that. Kind of figured out how to kind of dab it in there. It wasn't terrible. There's some still learning curves. I need to practice. I need to just drill some like 1/8 inch holes and some just scrap pieces of this and practice filling in holes. That's the hardest thing I've had to do, and I've tried and tried and tried. I kind of learned that I could do some low amperage and stack up one side and then come back and stack it up again and stack it up again and then stack up the other side and kind of blend it. But up there by the muffler that had that pretty good big gap, I had a lot of trouble with that. But all in all, I think it turned out pretty good. I'm very pleased. There's definitely some inconsistencies, like these are a little flatter than those and those are a little higher than the rest, but I mean that's just gonna take time. I mean, I couldn't expect myself to get it right off the bat, but I do like, let me shut this off. I do like TIG welding this exhaust much better than MIG welding it. although it takes a lot longer. It's a lot more setup. You've got to be a lot more detailed, but it doesn't make a mess. It looks a lot cleaner, and the more practice I get, the more consistent it'll get, and the better it'll look. But I think TIG welding this exhaust is so much nicer than MIG welding it. Nothing against it, because I've MIG welded every exhaust I've ever built. This is number 4, and I mean, all in all, I can't complain with the MIG welding. I've never had one break. I've never had, you know, any issues with it. The only issue I've ever had is little pinholes from where I've had to stop and start and fill, same thing, filling in little holes and stuff like that. It's hard to keep control on a MIG welder as much as you can on a TIG welder. But I mean, all in all, it's good. So I'm very pleased with the prime welder. It's so much. It's so nice. It's so forgiving. I've not had any issues with it. I run it at 65 amps and kind of just mashed the pedal to get it started. And you know, I didn't ever really need the 65 amps, and I did it all on 110. I don't have 220 outlets set up in my house or in the garage yet, so I used what I had. That's why I kind of leaned towards something like this, because it had 110. Because I mean, this is something that you saw I drug around. I drug in the garage and tack welded it up, and I'd bring it back out here and finish welding it all in where I had some space. But I mean, I all in all, it did a heck of a job. I cannot complain at all. I never had any issues with it. So I'm pleased. Unfortunately, it's dark. I got to be up at 4 o'clock to get to work in the morning. It is about almost 9, and I think I'm done. I'm not getting this thing put on tonight. I'll get it put on in the morning, and or tomorrow afternoon after work, and we'll go from there. But all in all, I'm excited. So I'll get it on there. We'll hear it fire up again, and keep trucking along. Alrighty, I've got it all hooked up. I think it turned out great. I think all in all, it turned out good. Everything lines up real good. Everything's pretty straight, square. Got plenty of room underneath the leaf spring hanger. Could probably pull it up a little bit more, but I don't want to accidentally be clanging around and hitting it. But I think it looks good on here. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I was going to like the chrome tips or not, or the polished tips, but I think it looks pretty good. I think it turned out good. Everything under here, which I still got to cut that rod down, but everything under here turned out good. Things lined up. Still got plenty of room in between there. Everything lines up good underneath the transfer case. V-band, all good here. You can see on this side, well, I had to take my heat shields out because my room up here wasn't very good on my wideband and O2 sensor, but all in all, pretty good. I still got to button some stuff up, zip tie everything up out of the way and clamp it down, but I am pretty thrilled. So I'm gonna slide back out from under here, and I guess I'm gonna sweep up. I'm gonna load the new tune that he gave me and see if I can get it pulled out, get it all checked out, and see what it looks like in the daylight. It'll be the first time this truck's moved in about 1.5 years, so these tires are gonna be good and flat spotted. All right, get it fired up. This is revision number 5. I'll fire it up, let it idle for a second, and then I'll pull it out. Don't worry about the fuel pressure. I gotta put the fitting back in it. And I think I'm either completely out of fuel or my sending unit's stuck. But none of that matters right now. I'm not real concerned about it. Air feels good. Let it idle down a little bit. All in all, sounds good. It's pretty quiet compared to the Lightning. You can't hardly hear it. I'm quite impressed. I already got moisture in the pipes. That ain't bad at all. So I'm gonna let it sit here and idle for a minute, then I'll get it pulled out. Alrighty, kind of excuse the wind noise, it's about to storm, but I think this is it. Got the exhaust all done, and went ahead, made some, yeah, you can see them, made some hangers at work. We had a die, and I used the press and bent it to 3-inch, and then I made it to fit there and welded it on. Made another one back here, welded it on, and super solid, doesn't really move. They are I use those rubber bushings. You can kind of see if it'll focus. Yeah, the rubber bushings that bolt in like I did on the C10. But all in all, I think it turned out pretty good. I'm super excited with how it looks. It sounds good. Still getting some tuning done on it, so I'm fired up though. But anyway, I'm real happy with the prime weld. It did great. Like I said, it's a bit of a learning curve to figure out, but I'm getting better at the foot pedal and all that stuff. It just takes a lot of practice, but still a lot of work to do on the truck. I still got some finishing up and some rewiring and all that good stuff, but fires up and runs great. Not super loud, just kind of idling. It is kind of loud, but it's not awful. But it does get pretty loud once you get on and start running down the road. But I love the way it turned out. I think it looks great. But it's real deep and throaty. But anyway, that's it. Like I said, I'm super excited. I got a lot of work to do on this truck. I got to kind of figure out where I'm going to start, but anyway, appreciate everybody everybody watching and hanging out again. And like I said, there's still a lot of work to do on this truck. And if you liked it, like it. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. And I'll see y'all in the next one.